Director of the Secret Service says she has no plans to step down following the assassination attempt on former President Trump. The agency released a statement yesterday saying Kimberly Cheadle is fiercely committed to transparency during the agency's internal investigation. The House Oversight Committee has subpoenaed Cheadle, seeking testimony from her on Monday. But the Secret Service tells NBC News her schedule will not allow her to appear, and they're working with the committee on an alternate date. Let's bring in NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delaney. And Ken, good morning. It was interesting in his speech early on last night, former President Trump went out of his way to praise the Secret Service and its response, anyway, to the shooting. We've talked about that a lot over the last week or so. What more can you tell us about the investigation this morning?
Good morning, Willie. Yeah, while former President Trump was praising the Secret Service, there are reports that behind the scenes his campaign is growing increasingly annoyed with them. And you even saw public calls by some of his campaign officials for the resignation of the Secret Service director. And of course, we all saw that video of those Republican senators chasing her down at the Republican National Convention, yelling questions at her that she was refusing to answer. So that's never good when you're a federal official. In terms of the investigation, you know, we're almost a week later, and the motives of this 20-year-old shooter remain an enigma. And that's really the most perplexing thing about this. The FBI has been through his phone and his devices, and they're no closer to figuring out why he did this. They found photos of both President Biden, former President Trump on his phone, and also Merrick Garland, the Attorney General. But he has so little in the way of both public and private postings. One of the theories going around is that he was simply an alienated young man looking for notoriety, that there was no political motive here whatsoever. And then in terms of the timeline, we're learning a lot more, and it's very troubling. We learned from that congressional briefing that it was almost an hour before the shooting that police first flagged Thomas Crooks as a suspicious person near the magnetometers. And then a half hour before the shooting, they actually sent a picture of him to the Secret Service. And then 20 minutes before the shooting, we're told Secret Service snipers on the roof, on that roof behind the Trump rally, detected Crooks on the roof of that building. Unclear at that time whether they viewed him as a threat. And then, of course, we know that at some point local police confronted him on the roof and then flagged that there was a man with a gun. What we don't know, the big question yet unanswered, is how many seconds elapsed between that report over the radio, guy on the roof with a gun, and the time that he fired the shots at Mr. Trump? Because that's a crucial question. Did the Secret Service have time to pull him off the stage? It's unclear. But we do know that they knew he had a rangefinder. They knew there was a suspicious person out there with a rangefinder, and they still allowed Mr. Trump to take the stage. So there are a lot of questions about that. There's also questions about how the Secret Service acted after the shots were fired, guys.
Right, and I wanted to talk to you about that, Ken. But still, though, the failure to secure the roof, as you were talking about, as we've said all along, the failure to notify any, in an aggressive way, the fears of a suspicious person well before President Trump took the stage, the rangefinder that they saw, again, how they didn't immediately get the Secret Service around there is beyond me. But then something that you wrote about yesterday, and we've talked about on this show, the amount of time that it took to get President Trump off the stage after he was shot. I mean, this remains to me just an enduring outrage that they didn't immediately grab him and pull him off the stage. That's what they're taught to do, isn't it?
Absolutely, Joe. You were one of the first people to flag this because a lot of people thought, well, they acted heroically after the shots were fired. And they did, in the sense that these Secret Service agents rushed into the line of gunfire to cover up Donald Trump. Most experts I talked to praised those initial seconds. But then after that, they are appalled, just as you are, about what happened because Mr. Trump, they allowed the protectee to dictate the pace with which they got him off the stage. That is not what they are trained to do. They're trained to manhandle, to tackle, to pick up the principal and rush him to safety, regardless of what he wants. And we talked to both former Secret Service agents and then outside experts in close protection, people who've worked with the State Department and the British military. They were all flabbergasted that, first of all, you hear Mr. Trump saying, I need to get my shoes, and they slow down. And then they appeared to try to be hustling him off the stage. And by the way, at that point, as you noted earlier, Joe, his head was above their head. So he was in danger. If there was a second shooter, he was exposed to fire. And then you hear Mr. Trump say, wait, wait, wait. And then he pumps his fist at the crowd in a gesture of showmanship that was a brilliant political move. But if there had been a second shooter, and remember, they had intelligence that the Iranians are plotting to kill Donald Trump in retaliation for his ordering of a targeted killing of a general. If there had been a second shooter, Mr. Trump was exposed to that gunfire. And we are just told that's not how it's supposed to happen. And what's perplexing to me is you're seeing retired Secret Service agents defending that conduct, what my sources say is indefensible.
NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Dilanian, thank you very much. We'll be looking for more follow-ups on that.
Thank you.
Hey there, MSNBC fans. I'm Luke Russert, and be sure to join me, Rachel Maddow, Jen Psaki, Lawrence O'Donnell, Steve Kornacki, Joy Reid, and many more September 7th in Brooklyn, MSNBC Live Democracy 2024. Click on the link for ticket information. We will see you there.